more newspapers on the lineup, just to welcome our reviewer who will be sharing his thoughts on the issue. I don't know if the connection is very stable, but let's attempt to say good morning to him. Hello, good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Good morning. It's a pleasure. I can hear you loud and clear.
Well, I can see you as well, and I must say you're looking like a very decorated chief from the southeast. I like the regalia.
It's one Nigeria, my brother.
Very well then, let's get to the front-burning issue. It was a post from the Ministry of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy confirming that the Federal Executive Council has chosen to renew the Naira-for-Crude deal. Now, this has sparked hope by petrol marketers who are expecting a review of the pump prices going into the week. How much of a great news is this to you now that the policy is looking like a permanent one other than the 6 months temporary arrangement we had?
Thank you, my brother. Good morning, Nigerians. It's an heartwarming news, given the fact that there were concerns that when there was a review last month, there was a stalemate because I think the NNPCL hasn't gotten a green light from the presidency to extend that Naira for crude. Maybe Mr. President have been contacted and he has given his nod, which is why the Federal Executive Council yesterday now make that. It's a heartwarming news because if you look at the fact that the crude oil in the international market has come down, the price has fallen, and it is expected that Nigeria should pay less. In fact, there are speculations that Nigeria should be paying something within the neighborhood of 400 to 500 naira per liter, given the fact that the price of crude has fallen, even below our budget estimate. And it wouldn't happen if Dangote continues to buy in dollars, which then means that the advantage that should accrue to us by the falling price of crude oil will not be there. But with this, it's a heartwarming news. It's a good news. I hope this goes into implementation immediately.
Now it's on the implementation part, especially with the caveat, because I did look at the caveat, and the caveat says, as long as the deal continues to serve public interest. It's a tricky one here because it's a deal with a private businessman who is looking to maximize profits. Now that his products are also much sought after, not only in Nigeria but across Europe because of the quality, particularly even his diesel. How do we adjudge this public interest as long as the deal is expected to continue?
Do you expect a man to run his profit, his business at a loss? For the decades that we've been subsidizing PMS through importation, who complained? For over 30 years, our refineries were comatose. And even now, with $1.5 billion spent on the maintenance or turnaround maintenance of Warri and Port Harcourt refineries, you could still see that they can't match Dangote refinery, because if assuming that they are the local refineries are operating at full capacity, Nigerians will not depend much on Dangote refinery for supply. But as it is, I think we should worry less about what should be the profit margin for Dangote, because as you have rightly pointed out, if Nigeria don't buy, it's ready to export even to US, to other African countries who are in dire need of it. So it's to our own advantage that we should have this Naira for crude, and while we work on our own local refineries to make them competitive, as well as encourage the other licensees who are in the process of building their own refineries to expedite actions so that there will actually be proper competition. Because I'm aware that BUA is also building a refinery, and a number of other private sector players are building their own refineries. So it is policies like these that can stimulate them to continue to fund their construction of refineries. And at the end of the day, Nigeria will be better for it. Because what we want to know, what we want to have as a Nigerian is lower cost of product, not high cost of product, which, as petroleum products is more or less an inelastic demand. You cannot do without it. Even if you don't have a car, you will be running grinding machine. If you are not running grinding machine, you are running generator in your home. So there is no way, one way or the other, you will not consume this product directly or indirectly. And in as much as Nigerians are crying about the rising cost of living, this is one veritable product that the price should be low. Don't forget that since the president said subsidy is gone on May 29, 2023, and then the follow-up of depreciation of the Naira through the floating of the currency, the cost of living has continued to soar. And so we need to keep that petroleum products low so that it can permeate and have ripple effect on the cost of goods and services within the country.
Now Mr. Jide Ojo, before we move on to another topic, we're talking about two elements and how it affects our economy: the Naira one and our crude, which is our mainstay. Over 90% of our revenue is from crude. But for the Naira following its depreciation, are you confident that this policy would somewhat end the reliance on foreign exchange in our domestic markets?
It's a tricky one, but I think it's a path, is a move in the right direction. That projection, I cannot safely make that guess because, as we say in economics, ceteris paribus, all things being equal. And as you know, all things are never equal.
At all.
There are political elements, there are economic factors, there are social factors, there are issues of nepotism and all of that could come in, that could impact negative. But I think, given the fact that Nigeria is majorly dependent on oil and gas, all that is needed will be done to ensure that the ordinary citizens have a fair deal. That projection, I can't make that call. It's a very dicey one to make. But let's hope that things will be done out of patriotic zeal, more so now that we have a new henchman, at NNPCL, that a lot of things will be done with utmost transparency and accountability, and that Nigerians will be put first, just like Donald Trump is putting America first.
Now, let's talk about the economic outlook. Away from the Naira-for-Crude deal, there are certain fears in the way manufacturers spend 40% of their revenue on energy. This move was supposed to also ensure energy security, but in line with the current economic realities and this trajectory of an even higher energy need to get every business running, what's your take on this call for economic sovereignty? We've seen ICAN issue a statement, we've seen NACCIMA issue a statement, all bemoaning the economic outlook. Is it all gloom, like it's projected on main media?
I don't believe it's all gloom. It's just that some policies of government needs gestation period before you see the benefits. Like the president said very recently in one of his speeches, that if he didn't remove subsidy and float the Naira, the economy will have collapsed. So it's very concerning that 40% of running cost of major industries in Nigeria is on energy. And yes, every government wants energy security, energy sovereignty, as we have called it. But when you are talking of energy, it's not just petroleum products. You are also talking of electricity. Most businesses now have to power their factories or their business centers with private generators, which is why they consume a lot of diesels or PMS. But assuming that the electricity generation distribution has increased, assuming it's increased exponentially, it will help to reduce dependence on PMS and diesel and gas. So it's a whole package. It's difficult to just single out that, oh, if the price of PMS or diesel comes down, then there will be significant reduction in the cost of energy. It may affect it positively, but I believe that we also must find a right mix to make sure that the electricity, the energy mix in the electricity sector, whether you are talking of solar or you are talking of thermal or you are talking of hydro, that the production cost is reduced. In my neck of wood, where I'm speaking with you, we are now on band A. I used to spend less than 10,000 per month before January 2024 on electricity charges. Today, I have to spend like 4 times that same amount in a month. So you can, even if the PMS and diesel comes down, the fact that the electricity tariff is on the exponential increase will also not make the cost of production and services to come down, because the buck will be passed to the final consumer for those who are running businesses. So it's a whole package, but let's hope for the best, while we support government to put them in the right direction.
Now, Mr. Jide, I don't know if you have seen the position of Mr. Tony Elumelu, who has outrightly blamed government appointees for the failure of the power sector and our energy woes. What do you make of this criticism from Mr. Tony Elumelu?
Well, he's a banker, and I think he has investment in the power sector too. I think Transcorp. So he knows what he's talking about, and of course, much as we blame President Tinubu for almost everything, we also must understand that President Tinubu hired ministers who are supposed to superintend over ministries, departments, and agencies. And when there are poor policy implementation, much as ordinary citizens will blame the president, the blame actually should go to those supervisors who fail to do the needful. And I worry. They have been saying that many ministers of power, once they serve out their term, the next political appointment they get, or the next political office they hold, is that of governor. How come it's like they are using the Ministry of Power to raise money for their gubernatorial ambition? And you know that there is a former minister of power that is answering corruption allegation charges right now. So I think it also lies with the Mr. President to oversee those ministries, departments, and agencies. Incidentally, there is a statement that while President Tinubu went to France, maybe aside from attending to his health, could be that from at least the one we know, which is official, is that he's gone to France to have an appraiser of his policies, programs, and projects. Since this is about the midterm of his government. And I hope when he comes back, ahead of May 29, 2025, we'll see a lot of changes in terms of appointments, in terms of redirecting certain aspects of his economic policies.
Well, like you rightly placed it, Mr. Tole Elumelu was speaking from a position of those affected by the amounts owed, particularly to his own company, Transcorp Power. He stated categorically yesterday that they are owed well over 600 billion naira. 600 billion? We're talking about just one player in the energy sector. Who knows how much is owed the other ones who have not come out to speak? How does government go about, especially for those government agencies that are part of the corporates owing this humongous amounts of money? Do you think that there will be the willpower to recoup these sums and ensure that the right investments in the energy sector is kept abreast.
And that is very staggering, and that's very shocking to me. If you are owing a corporation 600 billion, then you are more or less trying to bankrupt that institution, because I don't know how much more you can absorb that level of indebtedness. Many of the discos, distribution companies, have also complained that ministries, departments, and agencies are owing them a lot. I recall that they have to disconnect the light of University College Hospital Ibadan early this year for close to 90 days. They have also disconnected the Nigeria Air Force, where in Lagos, some Air Force officers and men invaded the office of is it Eco Electricity or Ikeja Electricity Company, where they vandalized their office over a huge indebtedness that they are owing. So many ministries, departments, and agencies are actually owing a lot of resources, but I think they just have to either resort to court or persuade those who are owing them to honor their contractual obligations. Otherwise, and I also am aware that some foreign countries like Togo, Benin Republic, allegedly are owing, are also owing the Nigerian electricity generation. Don't also forget that Nigeria supplies electricity to Niger Republic. So if all of these monies if they are able to recoup all of this debt, I think it will help to inject fresh funds into the power generation in Nigeria, and then we'll have higher megawatts of electricity to distribute, and that perhaps may bring down the energy cost. But it's a very sad, it leaves a sore taste in the that this is happening to one of our corporations.
Well, very well said, Mr. Jide. Let's move on to another topic. I hear you have very limited time with us. Let's see as many issues as we can discuss before we let you go. Now, the Apex Bank in Nigeria, the CBN, has posted quite a staggering figure in terms of where our external reserves have surged to, over $40 billion. And they've talked about the fact that Nigeria can boast of balance of payment surplus well over 6.83 billion. How does these figures affect the current state of things in the country?
I didn't get that quite all right. Can you recap?
My question is on CBN's post about Nigeria's balance of payment surplus and where our external reserves have grown to. They say that the figures have appreciated following what was a 3-year decline. The external reserve, for one, now stands at well over $40 billion, and the balance of payment surplus at about $6.683 billion. What do these figures do for Nigeria's external reserve and the position of our economy?
I think it just makes us credit worthy, but I am not impressed with those figures because they could have been sexed up figures. But even if they were true, assuming that they were genuine, that we have that surplus and surplus on balance of payment, what is of utmost importance to average Nigeria is, can we afford to live a decent life? How does this percolate? How does it impact on employment generation? How does this impact on poverty reduction? How does this bring down the cost of living that is daily snuffing life out of ordinary citizens? I think it's at that time that Nigerians will hail or applaud or laud this kind of news. Yeah, it's a heartwarming news, but I'm tired of celebrating statistical growth when there is nothing to show in terms of inflation reduction, in terms of poverty reduction, in terms of increasing the employment opportunities. So that is my own take on this.
Well, there are more of such statistics greeting the front page, sir. And another one, especially in terms of Nigeria-China collaborations, is a certain $328 million electricity deal which would boost electricity supply. I don't know if it's one of those news to applaud again, or how do we follow through with the implementation of such deals?
I think it's very important for us to just follow through, and this is a challenge for media and civil society. We should not just be celebrating figures being real. That we need to see of what is the impact, or what are the impacts of these figures, and it is when it's impacting positively on the average standard of living of citizens that we can now say they are doing well. But for that, I don't think it's yet to uhuru. Sorry, I have to go now because I have another engagement.
We appreciate you, sir, for squeezing our time. From the limited time you have, we wish you the best of the rest of today.
And you too, best.